Hey, welcome to Film Fanatics. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
And I'm Joe.
This week, Jonah Hill and Miles Teller become war dogs. We'll see if Laika gives us another stop-motion masterpiece with Kubo. A new version of Ben-Hur hits the big screen, and Tom Hanks' latest film comes to the small screen. So we're going to review all of those, and first we have War Dogs. And in this, two high school friends, played by the aforementioned Jonah Hill and Miles Teller, are now in their mid-20s and reconnect at a friend's funeral during the Iraq War. Teller is barely making ends meet when Hill lets him in on a legal scheme he has going with the government, selling weapons and such to the U.S. military. With Teller's help, he turns his business into a multi-million-dollar organization, and the two get in over their heads with a $300 million contract they may not be able to fulfill. Kevin Pollak and Bradley Cooper co-star. So, guys, this one is from the based on a true story camp of douche bros that we've seen lately. You've got The Wolf of Wall Street. Pain and Gain certainly fits into this category. I'm not sure if War Dogs necessarily gives us a reason to care more about these criminals than any of those films, but I would argue that it was, for me, more entertaining. I think Wolf could have been if it was trimmed down by about an hour, but as you know, that's, my take on Wolf of Wall Street. Scorsese does this. Mm-hmm. Hill and Teller have very solid chemistry, and you really do believe that they were childhood friends, but Hill really keeps his movie together. And maybe with a more esteemed director like a Scorsese, or a generally better script, or if he didn't already play in such a similar movie with The Wolf of Wall Street, maybe he would be looking at, some more awards buzz with this one. But as it is, I think War Dogs is solid summer entertainment, even if director Todd Phillips of The Hangover doesn't quite blend the comedy in as well as he thinks he does. And I think Teller does a good job. I think he continues to show his range a little bit more than he has sort of in the pre-Whiplash movies. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I thought it was all right. What'd you guys think?
No, I mean, you're right in a lot of ways with this one. It's trying to be a biopic that's... I definitely see the Pain and Gain parallels that I...
Actually, which is a worse movie, for sure.
Oh, a significantly worse movie. But, I mean, it's also Michael Bay.
True. Yeah, true.
But at the same time, it's also trying to be like Goodfellas, and you can definitely see the Scorsese parallels. The problem is...
And Scarface, for sure. Which...
And definitely Scarface, but...
You'll expect that, I guess.
Yeah. But the problem is, I just don't really think Phillips was even remotely up to the challenge. He's known for comedies, The Hangover, Old School come to mind. This is a crime comedy for the first two-thirds, and then goes straight up thriller in the last act. And it's complete and utter tonal whiplash.
Miles Teller.
Nah.
Pun partially intended. But,
good one.
But no, I agree. They do have solid chemistry. They actually keep the movie a lot more lively. Probably should be.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Which definitely makes a world of difference, particularly in how it's set up. I really could have, frankly, done without the constant reliance on Teller's voiceover.
That's a Scorseseism, though.
Yeah, it's completely pointless, and he's not adding anything.
How about the title cards?
I was okay with the first three, but when we got to 7, it was turning into just let it go. If this was Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 for that, fine. You don't need one for every little instance.
Too many title cards. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And they weren't even that clever. It wasn't.
Well, no, most of them just took a line from the upcoming scene.
I was going to say, Phillips was treating them like they were these great quotes.
Like The Wire.
Yeah. You're not The Wire. You never were The Wire. Stop pretending you are. If it wasn't for that last act, I feel like this would have been a slightly better than expected movie.
All right, Joe?
I thought it was all right.
Okay.
I mean, in honesty,
I might be on the higher end of this, then.
This should be interesting.
It was entertaining enough, I suppose. The thing is, I don't really like this guy, this director. I don't really like the Hangover movies that much. I don't like the look.
They're beyond overrated. But...
I mean, it's not even the fact they're overrated. I just didn't find them that enjoyable. I mean, I liked the first one when I saw it, but just this particular style just kind of bugs me. I guess for the Middle Eastern setting, it works somewhat visually. But, I mean, I do agree with you guys that what really elevates the movie is certainly just their performances and their chemistry with each other. I think Miles Teller is good, and I think Jonah Hill is actually really good, and he can be pretty entertaining.
Yeah, he's really good in this.
But it's good that you pointed out he's kind of done roles like this already, and not too long ago, so it's not really that fresh and new.
Yeah.
And it does feel like there are elements of different directors that he's trying to mix in there without really establishing his own identity, which is clearly there in terms of just the presentation, which personally I don't like very much. But I thought the plot was kind of interesting, even though, we've seen it before with other films too. Lord of War comes to mind. And, so it's...
Okay.
Another
Nick
worthy
Cage.
parallel.
So, I mean, I thought it was okay, mostly because of just some of the interplay between the two of them. And I actually didn't mind the thriller aspect at the end. I thought it made it a little more
I thought it made it interesting.
in
for
terms
sure.
of stakes. So
Yeah.
I didn't mind that it got a little more serious at the end, but I think otherwise it would have just been kind of more middling.
And by accounts, that is relatively what happened. I feel like Pain and Gain took a lot of liberties,
Probably.
with the subject matter.
Morally questionable individuals pursuing the American dream.
I do question, how much are we supposed to get behind these characters?
It's hard.
You kind of get behind Teller a bit more because he was sort of down on his luck and just trying to do the right thing and got
Desperate.
sort of over his head. Yeah, he was a bit desperate. He had a baby on the way, whatever. Hill is just kind of like...
He's a bad guy.
He's just kind of a scumbag. He really is, and he just doesn't care. So, it's sort of hard to get behind that.
Yeah. It's tough to do.
But, I think you can do it in a relatively engaging way.
What do you guys think about the supporting cast?
I liked Kevin Pollak a lot, actually, as the dry cleaner. Cooper was okay. It sort of was like De Niro in
Hustle?
in American Hustle,
Just kinda there.
where he's like, okay, well, he's there doing a favor for O. Russell because he did the last movie. It's like Cooper's doing Phillips a favor because he was in Hangover.
Yeah.
So he shows up for like 2 or 3 scenes. His character adds certainly some wrinkles to the story.
I mean, I liked his character, but I also feel like he showed up way too late in the game.
Very late.
Like, he's an important character, but he doesn't show up until probably 2/3 of the way into the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we see him immediately in the opening scene. But,
Right.
I mean, it goes by
But
so
then
fast you don't even know it's him.
Right.
Until they sort of replay that later. But, yeah, I don't know. What'd you think?
I thought he was all right.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was the strongest one from Cooper. Actually, some of the minor actors kind of bugged me after the performance.
Really? The wife?
I did not like the wife.
I didn't really like the wife either.
I thought the wife's performance was pretty weak.
Yeah.
Whoever that actress was.
I thought she'd be worse.
Her accent kind of bothered me. I was like, what are you supposed to be?
Why did you think she'd be worse? Are you familiar with the actress?
No, I just thought it was going to be like along the same line of model-ish turned actress like Kate Upton.
Oh, is she a model?
Looks like it anyways, but I digress.
I don't know about that.
Just some of those scenes specifically didn't really work for me with her and Teller.
Yeah, I was a little unsure of her character's motivation. I know she wanted to be rich or whatever, but she really didn't like that he was
The
doing
fact he's
any
doing
of
those
that.
things,
And
yeah.
then she still kind of just let him.
Well, the majority of the stuff that we know about her is through Teller's pointless narration.
Yeah, true.
So
That is true. All right, well, I actually kind of enjoyed this one. It's a B for me.
C+.
B minus.
Oh, all right. All right, well, up next is Kubo and the Two Strings. And, Justin, this was your number 1 most anticipated, so I'm intrigued to hear how it went.
All right. All his life, Kubo, voiced by Art Parkinson, has entertained the local villagers with his magical abilities on one condition: never wander out after dark. However, when an attempt to reconnect with his late father goes horribly wrong, Kubo, along with a monkey voiced by Charlize Theron, and a beetle voiced by Matthew McConaughey, must go and track down his father's impenetrable armor to stop the evil Moon King. Rooney Mara has a supporting role, as does the great Ralph Fiennes.
Don't forget George Takei.
And
Yeah, really?
And George Takei, whose sole purpose is to basically say, "Oh my."
You can never leave Decay out.
you really can't.
But better in this than Freebirds.
Well,
Agreed.
He
Did
did his oh my gag in both.
and had a few other minor supporting roles too. It's just some
Yeah,
additional
no.
voice work, basically. Background characters.
Can't complain with that.
No.
But no, this was, as Dan very politely mentioned, my number 1. And I gotta say, in a summer where we had Batman, we had Cap, we had a whole mess of other things that
Batman wasn't this summer.
was in Suicide Squad. But anyways,
Oh.
Technically.
I guess.
I'm sorry, did you want me to say Captain Boomerang, Dan?
Hey, I'm cool with that.
You could have mentioned Joker.
Yes, it's 20 minutes, but
Compared to Batman's 3, yes, jackass.
touche. But anyways, in a summer filled with, honestly, dashing hopes and dreams, thank goodness for Kubo. I'm just going to say it right now. Leica wasn't really hitting it home for me with the box trolls, but they really swung for the fences on this one, and it paid off in abundance. Their stop motion is really completely raised the bar. Voice acting really well done. The storyline, I think kids will get confused with, and I think some of the twists to adults will be obvious. But my main counter for that is also, I kept thinking while watching it, as a kid, would I have caught this? And I feel like the answer to that is not especially. And really, the story's engaging enough. The action is intense, and the score is superb. I think it's easily the best movie of the summer. I'm curious to see where you guys stood on it.
Joe, let's hear it.
Do you really want to hear it?
I
This ought to be
do.
good.
Okay. I think that Justin's most anticipated was a good pick, because so far for me, might be my favorite movie of the year. So I thought it was pretty fantastic. Like, I guess I know what you're saying with the twists that are kind of obvious to an adult, but maybe not to a younger kid. But I don't think it really mattered for the story that was being told. And also one of those movies that I don't think you should go into spoiler territory. I don't want to be spoiler king forever. So I would leave.
That's okay.
But I do think that certain things did work earlier on in the movie. I think that the mythology seemed pretty cool. I think the setting for feudal Japan seemed pretty genuine for what it was. I liked the characters and the voice work. Thought the story was simple enough, but tackled some pretty heavy stuff. Definitely much better than like his previous project, I think, with Box Trolls, which was visually good, but otherwise
A lousy movie.
And
There was good things about it.
I
but
can't say that I hated Box Trolls, but like if you compare it what they did before, and I'd say Kubo to this, just it's on a higher level. I mean, for me, let's put it this way. I had such a profound experience with it that I talked about it for 20 minutes on my own channel, and which you guys can check out, by the way, because I did it outside. It was quite lovely. And for me, it was a pretty awesome experience. And let's just say, like, Toy Story level, for me. I don't know, I kept thinking, if this one stands the test of time, it could be a favorite of mine in the future.
And a crier.
I did cry a bit,
absolutely.
actually, quite a bit. By the end, I was very... I have not been impacted by a movie in that way for a long time. So that should hint as to what my feelings about it are. Yeah.
Well, okay, so here's what I did.
Uh-oh.
I saw you put up your 20-minute Kubo review.
Oh, no.
And I never watch your standalone reviews until we do the show.
I'm worried,
'cause
Justin.
I like to come in fresh. But I thought, wow, a 20-minute review, this guy's got to either really love this movie or...
Despise it.
Which I didn't see happening. Because here's my thing. I thought it was decent.
Okay.
But I was like, there's something I'm not quite connecting with in this movie.
Okay.
So I wanted to, hear this 20-minute
Rant?
I mean, really, about 16 minutes of it was the Kubo. About 4 was how nice it was outside. Which it was. It was a lovely day, and you looked great in the porch or whatever. But
You're right. I did talk about how it was nice
for
outside.
a while. Yeah, it was a good 4 or 5 minutes in before you actually got to the movie. But
Yeah.
And then of course some of it was synopsis and whatnot. But I'd say there's about 12 to 13 minutes of real review meat there. I will admit that you raised my grade slightly on it.
All right.
Because there were a couple things that you mentioned that actually you didn't really hit on here for time constraints. But number one, the identity of Kubo being the same character, whether it was portrayed from a boy's perspective or a girl's perspective.
It didn't matter at all.
I thought was very insightful, something I certainly didn't think of. And just the universal themes of the whole movie. I mean,
message.
obviously, I knew that, but yeah, I mean, you reflected in a couple of ways I hadn't really thought about.
Pretty heavy stuff.
It is very heavy stuff. So I will say that.
Well, not what you didn't like, though.
Yeah, here were my issues with it. I mean,
Okay.
you guys obviously, sing the praises. I can't say it's, quite my favorite movie of the year or the summer, or well, it's my favorite of the week. I'll give it that.
Accepted.
Okay, the animation is gorgeous. That is clear.
Yeah.
Animation-wise, the best of the year.
Great.
And I can't imagine anything competing with it through the rest of the year. I really can't.
Doubt it, yeah.
Maybe Mona, but
What?
Maybe, but I mean, Disney does a good job with animation, but this is next level.
What-
Moana's the new,
Disney movie?
yeah.
What? That's that
It's
one
about that
about.
princess. I don't know.
That's another Disney movie. Okay.
Princess named Moana.
yep.
They're doing, because they got so much backlash for being so white.
They're doing.
They have to,
it's like Indian princess or
yeah,
something.
I don't know what she is. Samoan or something. What is she?
Filipino, I think.
Filipino.
Cool.
I can't imagine that animation is going to look anything like this.
You never know. Could blow you
You
away.
know?
You know.
But listen,
Everything.
this film obviously has a lot of thought put into it, animation wise, and the themes and the characters. But the story is where I really think it.
Falters.
Yeah. I don't want to say falls apart, but falters, I think, is probably a good word. I think there are some obvious things that happen. I think there's also a few plot holes here or there. I don't know how much I really understood the whole deal with the villains. And then the thing that really bothered me, and why did he have 3 strings on the instrument if it's called Kubo and the 2 strings? That bothered me the whole movie.
I'm sure Justin could explain. I mean, I think I know what it is. Do you know what it is, Justin? Because I figured I came out of it thinking that too. Why is it called that? Oh, that's why it's called that. But
It rhymes with metaphor.
It's also kind of spoiler-y.
The rest business?
Yeah, like the rest. Those are the 2 strings that he has to use to fix it.
I got that.
Yeah, but technically he
Just
has,
call the movie Kubo, okay? And just call it a day.
But it sounds so epic.
It's stupid. The voice acting was good from the kid. The kid was great.
Hey, by the way,
Theron was fine.
Justin, Game of Thrones theory abated. So good movie.
Oh, he's a Game of Thrones kid?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
There we
nice.
go. See, they're not all
Minor
disasters.
curse, but also we have. Well, we also didn't go see it for the kid. We saw it before the story, but
It's still a Game of Thrones person.
yeah, well, Kit Harington was still in How to Train Your Dragon 2. But anyways,
There you go. Go on, Dan.
What, like, for the 80th time, though.
Yes.
Harrington wasn't the star of How to Train Your Dragon,
This
too. He's
kid was
like
the star.
8th, 9th build. This movie's named Kubo. Okay?
And the 1 string.
And the one,
Real string.
the extra string.
It's more of a nitpick, I think, isn't it?
anywho,
Hey,
A little
you,
bit.
you lowered Winter Soldier's grade a tick because of that.
All right. I'll take
So-
it back.
Justified.
I take it back.
But yeah, the kid was great. Theron was good. McConaughey was okay. It was not my favorite performance of his. I understand it's his first foray into animation, so okay.
He did fine, yeah.
Yeah, he was all right. But yeah, so I will admit my grade was raised slightly from your points, Joe. But I can't say it's the best of the summer for sure.
Oh, wow.
But I'm glad you guys liked it. What was your number one, Joe, for most anticipated?
Something that
Because
wasn't...
mine was Dory, that was also pretty good.
Civil War.
Oh, Civil War was good.
I enjoyed Civil War.
All right, so we all had some questionable picks in the top 5.
Yeah.
But our number ones, I think,
Pretty
Pretty
were all
consistent.
pretty consistently good. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I leave Kubo with a B+.
I leave with an A+.
I figured.
I'm
And
agreeing with him
Joe?
with an A++. Plus.
Yeah, A++ for you.
A++. Great
All right,
movie.
Very good. All right. Well, Joe, let's talk about Ben-Hur.
Oh, great.
Another great one.
Yeah, I like Ben-Hur, 1959. All right, Ben-Hur is an epic historical drama film, according to Wikipedia, directed by this guy who I will not pronounce. I'll try Timur Bekmambetov, which I believe is his first film.
No.
Second
No,
film?
Not
he's
even remotely
done
close.
a bunch of not good films.
Night Watch, Day Watch, Wanted, and...
I liked Wanted. That's what he's most known for, is Wanted.
Wanted.
The Angelina Jolie Bullets That Curve
So
movie.
two movies that I haven't seen and one I don't care about. So essentially,
He's new to you.
He's new to me.
That's fair.
But you're right. It's apparently, well, as you guys know, I didn't know this, but it's the 5th adaptation of the Ben-Hur novel. And, it's quite a legacy because the best known one is the 1959 Charlton Heston version. In this version, though, we got Jack Huston, who's Ben-Hur.
Yep.
I don't know. You guys know him?
Not off the top of my head now.
Toby
So
Cabell
no.
is Toby Cabell is his brother, Masala, and Morgan Freeman is the guy.
True.
That help's been her at some point. And it follows this nobleman named Judah Ben-Hur, that's Huston, who is falsely accused of treason by his childhood friend and adopted brother Messala, that's Cabell, and he survives years of slavery under the Romans and eventually attempts to get revenge by challenging Messala to the Grand Chariot Race, which is what the movie is most famous for originally, while being forever changed after a series of encounters with Jesus, the big man, as they say. Now, about half the time, the 1959 version is regarded as a classic, pretty much the best-loved version. I'm a big fan of it myself. I love the original. I think we brought it up many a time, so it's appropriate. We're finally getting around to this.
And we'll be discussing it soon on our Epic Movie Month, yeah.
Now, this version does rush out several plot points, such as Judah Ben-Hur's courting of his love interest, which was like about half an hour, 45 minutes of the 59 movie, which is literally just voice-over narration, which is, like, most of the things they skip over is, like, Judah said this, which I'm like, all right, well, that works.
And then stuff happens.
Certainly much more brief. And, of course, they also took out this big part where he inherits this piece of a Roman family, and that's how he actually gains citizenship, so we can kind of get back in there later on, but it's not in this movie, so I guess it wasn't really that necessary. I mean, that's kind of says something, I guess. And as I said before, these moments are either explained through the narration or they're left out. Now, surprisingly, though, not much is really lost to the main story, which kind of made me think a bit about the 4-hour-long version, where I'm like, okay, the essentials are here. I'll give it that. And I found
rushed, but
some parts are rushed, but like when they exercise that main plot point or two that really didn't affect the story much, I'm like, all right, give you points there. Yeah. All right, that's something. I found myself mostly being kind of okay with this version. Now, the acting was like all right. The characters are established enough that you care about them, and I even liked how they did Jesus more than the original. I'll give them that. And this version, I think handled it with much more subtlety and handled him more as a human you could relate to, which is something that movies rarely do, but I think worked. And I think they even managed to convey the relationship between the brothers a bit better, with more of an emotional connection than in the original. So, yeah, the movie did one thing better than the original, in my opinion, because I never really cared much about Messala in the original. He's just a bad guy because evil. Yeah, so points there. However, you can't compete with acting legends like Heston. That level of epic, classic Hollywood, obviously, automatically the movie's going up against something. But the legendary chariot scene is reduced to this rushed, poorly shot CGI monstrosity. So I guess I could say my feelings about it are mixed.
I would say so. And you're a big fan of the original.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
I had not seen it until we did the Epic Movie Month. So, it's all kind of new to me. I'm seeing 2 Ben-Hur versions in 1 month.
But you saw the original before?
But I saw the original before, a couple of weeks ago. And just why with this movie? Like, I understand you want to tell the story, it's fine. But, from an era standpoint, everything looked on a lower budget in today's cinema than the 1959 version did in 1959.
Well, it was the biggest movie ever.
Right. The 1959 movie just pulled out all the stops, spent more money than anything ever. It was 4 hours long. The chariot race was beautiful, and and so if you're not gonna really put your all into it, why do it?
Yeah.
We did Tarzan a couple of months ago, and I think we all, had both positive and negative things to say about it. But, one thing we all kind of said was that at least it's a little bit of a different take, on the Tarzan legend. Whereas Ben-Hur is sort of Ben-Hur. If you want to be faithful to the book, there's certain things you have to do.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. The chariot race was ridiculously short. The CGI was bad. Did you happen to see it in 3D?
No.
Okay. I did. The 3D was okay.
All right.
But even for the chariot race, it was like, could have done without it.
That is not the feeling you should be getting.
If you're going to watch Ben-Hur in 3D, you want to see the chariot race come to life, and it just doesn't.
But would you want to see that chariot race come more to life?
No, well, more to life than it did, certainly. Yes. The acting is average. You're right.
It's all right.
Heston is Heston.
Yeah.
You're not going to compete with him.
No.
But this guy doesn't even really have, the...
He's not really...
charisma. He's just not...
He's not a...
He was not up to this.
No.
I mean, it was a different take, I guess. I did like the guy from Messala, though. Honestly.
Yeah, he was fine.
I thought he was all right.
Even Freeman, though, is kind of he's doing the Freeman
I mean,
bit.
I can't say it was bad. It was standard Freeman.
It was Standard Freeman.
Standard
yes. And then the closing song is so. It's like this. It felt like I was watching Enterprise all over again.
Oh no!
It was
bad.
like there's this, this quote unquote epic movie. For 2 hours we watch all this stuff happening and Jesus and Judah and the chariot race, and then it's like Sarah McLachlan-esque music, for the credits, and I'm like, what is this?
That's rough.
It was very bizarre. It wasn't horrible, Joe, I admit, but I think I'm a little less mixed than you on it.
Fair enough.
Justin?
The most frequent question I seem to be getting about the 2016 version is simply this. Why are they doing this? And I can't really justify it, but what I can say is, no, it's not necessary, but then again, the 1959 version wasn't really necessary either, and yet here we are.
But it did something better.
Getting to that.
That hadn't been done.
Getting to that, I promise. The 1959 version, as Dan mentioned, went all out, had competent filmmakers, really, really, really pushed the envelope. 2016 wishes it could say the same. The acting is mediocre at best, Razzie-worthy at worst. The storyline is either really, really rushed, super dry, or some variation between the two for 2 hours that should be slightly better paced, but just continues to drag on as it continues. The CGI, honestly, I thought was going to be worse.
It's pretty bad.
It was pretty bad.
I mean, the CGI.
I don't know. After Gods of Egypt, there's.
No, it's not as bad as Gods of Egypt. You're right. That's the worst of the year CGI-wise, I would say.
There's no competition. But it's certainly not good. It's like watching a very, very bad video game.
Horse is a horse when it's CGI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
True.
apparently.
I mean, I want to give them partial points for the chariot scene just because it looked like they were trying to do
If there's one thing you give this movie points for, don't let it be the chariot scene.
At least they were trying to go somewhat for practical effects, so.
Oh, Joe didn't like that comment.
Yeah, right.
I thought it was pretty CGI heavy.
It was really CGI heavy, Justin.
They at least looked like they were riding horses. I was expecting like one gigantic cartoon cutscene for a second, but
Well, okay, you can ride a horse. I mean, that's fairly standard.
I'll be honest, I was more impressed with the opening scene where the two guys were riding. That looked more impressive to me from a cinematic perspective than the chariot scene.
I didn't say it was a good scene. I just said it. I appreciate the fact they were trying to use at least a little bit of practical effects.
But okay,
There's something not as much.
But the original's kind of like the
I
best
get it,
example
Joe.
of
Believe me.
ultimate
I didn't
practical
say it was the
effects.
be all end all, Joe.
this
Come on.
reminds me, though, this whole conversation reminds me of Exodus, Gods and Kings. Is that what it was called?
Yep.
If you're going to do a Moses movie where he doesn't part the sea, what is the point?
Yeah.
If you're going to make the chariot race of Ben-Hur look this terrible, why are you doing the movie? I mean, Joe's right. They didn't take a whole lot out of the main story.
That's okay,
and I
yeah.
actually appreciated that they sort of glossed over
Some
the
stuff that might not have
the drawn-out
necessarily-
effects, of the first movie.
Yeah, I give him points there, like I said.
But, like, Ben-Hur is known for the chariot race.
That's the big
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
They should have spent more time than anything on that portion,
Honestly,
and I don't think they did.
That was the most rushed part of the movie for me. Like,
Yeah.
it was so glaringly
Oh,
obvious.
no. The worst in the rushing is the entire second half of the 59 movie is essentially condensed into a 20-minute and then stuff happens scene.
Well, that's because they actually did add one thing a little bit differently. They focused a little more on Masala, kind of fleshing out his character, which I appreciated. I thought that was the freshest thing about this one, honestly.
And that was a cool convention that kind of tried to let it distance itself from the 59 version, but also, I would argue, doesn't always work.
Maybe not always, for sure, but I thought that they tried to tackle the political complications of the time maybe a little more in depth than the original did. Like, these were two people opposed that have difficult circumstances. Like, what am I going to do? What you going to do? I'm like, all right, that's tough. That's tough to deal with. I could look at it with that.
And in regards to the whole Jesus thing, could not disagree more, Joe.
Really?
Like,
Not a Jesus
this-
fan.
They,
Well, I knew that.
Phil Fanatics goes religious.
Well, fine, Justin. Now,
Not of
religious,
this. Not of this portrait.
all right. Well, now I want to hear. I want to hear, Justin.
they turn him into the character in literary standpoints for this was
Yeah.
always bordering on Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah.
But this it's like, well, Ben-Hur enter top 10 generic Jesus quotes of all time, and they're probably in here. Well,
Only
if
like
you live
the
by the sword, you
levels.
die by the sword.
Honestly, that was only like
God
the
is
last
love.
couple. There were only a couple that were really obvious. They actually changed a few things towards the beginning.
Not really.
They didn't like. He didn't blatantly quote things right away. I actually was like, wait a minute, is that
That's
Jesus?
pretty much him right out the gate.
I don't know, man. This is one of the few movies I thought of where Jesus was a person. I mean, if you compare,
It
it
wasn't
to,
like Son of God level where
like he's like
the,
blatantly quoting.
Jesus' greatest
No,
hits.
I mean like they actually seemed a little more human by comparison to the original, where it's literally no lines, chorus of music, it's God. Okay, I get it's the 50s, but I'm sorry,
yeah,
it's a little.
this is to be expected
It's
in the 50s.
it's a little cheesy by comparison. I mean, let's put it this way.
More
Justin.
so than him literally spouting
Hey.
the same, like, overquoted Jesus statements.
The fact that he actually directly interacts with Ben-Hur as opposed to not.
He
Also,
interacts with Ben-Hur in the original
With dialogue.
in the 59 one.
in dialogue.
Okay, I'll
and,
give you that one.
And he's actually a character in this one, where in the original, he is a
Is he,
Deus
though?
Ex Machina. Yes.
I mean, he's
More so for sure.
Oh, yes.
definitely more so, but
Yeah.
he's still Deus Ex Machina.
All right, well let's wrap this one up. I leave the 2016 Ben-Hur with a D+.
Okay. It's,
D minus.
Ooh.
it's a C for me.
Okay. So finally, we have a Hologram for the King, which is new on DVD and Blu-ray. Tom Hanks in this movie plays Alan Clay, a past his prime corporate businessman whose home life is also falling apart. He heads to Saudi Arabia to sell a holographic teleconferencing system to the Saudi government, and there he sort of gets the runaround from the government and also falls ill and also falls in love with his doctor. This is a very safe, basic movie. I sort of likened it to a poor man's Lost in Translation. I thought even War Dogs from earlier in the show had much more to say about counterculture type stuff than this movie seems to. Hanks is fine, but it's a basic performance. I don't think I've ever seen Hanks give a bad performance, but this movie just reminded me a lot of Larry Crown. It's like it's safe, it's fine. I don't necessarily regret watching it, but what is it really saying? And I feel like not much. There's so many different subplots going on that, a lot of them don't really make any difference either way. So I don't know. It was very middling for me. How about for you guys?
Maybe less middling for me.
Oh, you liked it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought Hanks was pretty good in it, actually, as Hanks pretty much always
I mean,
is.
he never, yeah.
You know,
he
like,
always shows up.
I mean,
that's for
functioning
sure.
as the everyman character, but did a good job with it. I think, I think that in terms of what it's trying to say, I guess it's a basic kind of fish out of water story. I like the Lost in Translation reference. Great movie.
Thought you would.
Someday, gentlemen, someday.
Maybe one day. But, like, very similar, but, it's okay. It works in that sense. I guess, I think the existential crisis he's going through is something that people can relate to. They kind of touch on some things. I like his interactions with the people. I think it creates some very human elements, and I think the slow boil of frustration with business and communication. I thought there's some worthwhile stuff there in today's modern age, especially. However, you are right that there are a bunch of subplots that I can't say they don't go anywhere, but they aren't really what we're looking for.
I just would have preferred they focus in on. So, like, if you want to do the relationship, okay, focus in a little bit more on that.
Like,
maybe
down
drop
at
a
least.
couple other things.
For
Yeah.
instance, I liked the relationship, but we don't really get into it until like the movie's almost over.
Yeah, there's literally 20 minutes left when we
It's
finally
realize
there.
we
to
spent
it,
a
yeah.
whole lot of time with this other character who is his driver, which I thought was going to be a couple funny bits, and there's some repetition, which I think is intentional. But the performances were good, and some of the cinematography was pretty decent. The biggest problem I have with the movie is, once again, I think it's a theme for this episode, is the titles. Because while you could argue that it's correct, I spent most of this movie waiting for what the trailer showed
that
me.
hologram.
And it's not really
I felt like I was watching absurdist comedy at several points.
There's some quirky stuff there, some Ally McBeal type moments.
Yes, and I love the opening number with the Talking Heads. Video
like I
ripoff.
said,
That was great.
Some cool editing things there. Like I said, I liked those surrealistic things. They were kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I just felt like this movie wasn't sure what it was trying to say half the time.
Yeah.
You know, so I thought it was interesting, but I can't say that it was perfect.
Okay.
No, this was just a really, really blah movie for me. I gotta admit, I went into it kind of expecting Rock the Casbah 2.
Oh my god, it's much better than Rock the
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. Actually.
Oh god, I forgot about that one. Yeah, there's another example of a really terrible fish out of water.
Curse you, Barry
Kind of
Levinson.
story.
Curse you.
Randall's
Yeah.
Crisis type thing.
Yeah.
No, it's true. And it's definitely nowhere near as bad as that. But the problem is, it's not really anything else either. I'll give you the fact that he was an everyman, but the movie's biggest fault is the fact that it has at least 19 different storylines and doesn't have any idea where it wants to go with any of them.
Well, it doesn't stick
So
with
it
the main
just
one.
sort of throws every single one at you and hoping that you'll accept every single one as much as the last one. Which is delightful until you realize that most of them aren't really building it to anything because the director has no idea what he wants to say. I'll give you the fact that it's well shot. Hanks is likable as per usual with Hanks.
I mean,
It
yeah.
goes without saying, like, he plays an everyman well. That's what Tom Hanks does, right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's almost, we all know that.
But I also feel like it might be worse because he's giving his typical shtick in a movie that I could quite frankly take or leave. So I think it's pretty middle of the road for me.
I just think it's a safe performance.
It's safe.
You know,
It
I
is.
mean, we're sandwiching this performance in between, Captain Phillips and the Sully movie that's coming out.
Sully.
You know, these big, real world,
Dan.
whatever.
In defense of that, though, does every movie Tom Hanks have to do be like that? Maybe he wanted to do something different.
No, but I mean, look at Cloud Atlas. That was very different.
Very different.
It's it's not what
different,
we normally see from Hanks, and certainly I think for me anyway more enjoyable than this. No, you're right, Joe. Every movie doesn't have to be completely different, but I don't know. I feel like a safe Hanks is a safe Hanks. I mean, the guy has won so many awards for playing these just great characters, and this to me, I know neither of you have actually seen Larry Crown, but this just it reeks of that sort of like Tom Hanks is an everyman because he's Tom Hanks and he's an everyman. Like,
Yeah, no, it's true.
there was no more rationale to it, I think, for that than getting him,
Through it.
to getting him for the movie than that. So I did like the Ally McBeal
Stuff.
dream sequences.
Like where like his daughter spits out through Skype. It's kind of
Yeah, I mean, he had a couple of cool scenes with some surreal stuff with that.
The nightmare stuff.
But then he woke up and we were back
Movie.
to the movie, standard Hanks movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was fine. It's just I don't know.
What a selling point.
Yeah,
It
like
was
when I
fine.
think of a Tom Hanks starring film, I don't usually come away with it was fine.
Yeah.
All right, well, Joe, I'm glad you like it. I leave Hologram with a C.
And I'm right with you. See?
B.
All right, very good. Well, that will do it for this week's episode. We'll be back next week with all new stuff, and of course, Joe has the 20-minute Kubo / Isn't It Beautiful out today video.
Somebody has to promote it.
Hey,
No, I'm glad you
people
did, and you really, listeners, if you want, an in-depth look at this movie from somebody who absolutely loved it,
I did.
definitely check out, the video. And, there's a bunch of obviously great videos up there all the time, and we do our Star Trek ones on our channel as well, and our monthly, theme episodes. We'll have the epic movie one coming up very shortly as well, so you can enjoy that. And check out our Facebook group, Film Fanatics with an exclamation point, and the Twitter feed at Film Fanatics Pod, and of course subscribe to the channel if you would like to do that. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.